What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to DSM Pregame Live. Phillies, DiamondBacks, NLCS Game 7 at Citizens Bank Park is just under an hour away. I am one half of your host here, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Guys, you can find all of our content over on Twitter at DSM_media. But most importantly, if you guys want to support the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button over here on the YouTube channel. It is the home of all of our DSM pregame lives for the Phillies, Sixers, and Eagles seasons, as well as the Faithful Fanatic show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. It is also the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. Keys to victory, standout stars, game predictions, all of that coming soon. Don't forget to drop your game predictions in the comment section. But my man, here we are. Did not think the series was going to go the full 7. Not sure, still not sure how I'm feeling with about 45 minutes to go, but we'll talk and work our way through it. But happy Tuesday, man.
Happy Tuesday, man. Happy Game 7 day, all of the above. I'm with you, man. I guess, my nerves haven't necessarily had time to kick in throughout this day. We got the NBA starting too, so I've been pretty freaking busy today getting everything together for that. But, man, time to settle in as far as my day goes and, put the seatbelt on and strap in for this ride that we're about to go on. It's going to be crazy. And to your point, man, it almost at this point for me doesn't even matter why we're here or how we got here or, all the missed opportunities by the Phillies in this series. I get it. The Game 6 blooper, I get it. It was disappointing. Game 3, disappointing, right? Game 4 had a little bit more life, but still disappointing. So tonight, I'm going to try to brush all of that under the rug and focus on what's at hand because this Game 7 is probably the most important of each of these guys' career at this point. And we're going to need everything from this team tonight, as we've seen throughout this series.
I think that's an incredibly important factor for the fans going to the stadium, for all of us watching at home, and for the Phillies themselves to keep in mind. It does not matter how or why we're at Game 7. At the end of the day, you win and you're in the World Series at Citizens Bank Park, the first ever Game 7 in Philadelphia Phillies history, man. Over 140 years of making the playoffs, however many of those years, and never playing in a Game 7 in any series. And here we are hosting it in the NLCS for a chance to punch their ticket back to the World Series for consecutive years, where the Texas Rangers await the winner of this one now. But let's get into our keys to victory, Scotty, because I have quite a few to get here too tonight, because I feel like there's been a common theme in at least 2 of the losses. Now, you've lost 3 games this series, obviously, one of which you can obviously pinpoint the bullpen, right? Blowing that 5-2 lead in Arizona in Game 4 obviously stings and hurts. And Orion Kirkring and Craig Kimbrell and Gregory Soto and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, 2 of the other 3 losses, you have produced 1 run offensively. Okay? 1 run in those 2 games.
Yeah.
That cannot happen tonight, because at the end of the day, so many people it's Ranger Day. What are we going to get out of Ranger Suarez? What's the leash going to be like? How's Rob going to operate the bullpen? Does Zach Wheeler throw? Those are all questions we're going to get into, and obviously keys to this game. But none of it matters if the bats don't wake the hell up. It didn't matter if Aaron Nola had that second inning, because at the end of the day, they didn't do enough to win that game offensively. So tonight, for me, it starts with the bats. I take a look at Brandon Pfaadt coming in here, man. And I know what he did to the Phillies in Game 3, that other 1-run ball game I was alluding to there in Arizona for the loss. Obviously, rookie coming in here, had like a 5.95, 5.97 ERA this year and tore the Phillies up in Game 3. I have to put my faith in this ballpark, in this environment, and in this lineup to bounce back each and every time against this kid. And I need them to attack Brandon Pfaadt often and early. I feel like obviously the last time they saw him was the first time they saw him They were very off balance. They were behind in counts almost over and over and over again. 0-1, 0-2, 1-2, etc. And that's not a recipe for success to get to a young kid in a hostile environment.
Yeah.
Make sure to try to get up in counts. And if not, when he makes those early count mistakes, punish him. Get on Brandon Pfaadt early, and you will have success tonight as the lineup goes.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great place to start. First, before I get into my key to victory, it coincides with yours as well. Shout out to Brett. Yes, first game 7 since the Sixers Celtics. We know how that went. Bryce Harper walked in with a Pat Bev jersey on. Now, there was a lot of talk about that, right? Yeah. But I do want to highlight Pat Bev was not part of these collapses in the past. No. So there is an exception.
Pat Bev was also recently talking on his podcast with Barstool Sports about Bryce Harper and this Phillies, road trip right now, and we're at October. So I think just throwing some respect back there.
He's following along with the Phillies. He's trying to get intertwined with Philadelphia, and Bryce Harper, of course, pays a little bit of tribute. All we can hope with that jersey on tonight, Bryce carries some of that dog that Pat Beverly has with him.
Speaking of NBA jerseys and some dogs, see what Nick Castellanos showed up with?
I did not.
No, he showed up in that red MJ's Bull jersey, man.
Okay.
And if I know anything about Game 7s and Michael Jordan,
we're gonna need Castellanos, man. We're gonna need some dog there
as well.
Man, I disagree, Brett. I think those new City Edition jerseys are all right, but this isn't a Sixers pod. Happy Tuesday to you as well, Terry. But to get back to the point here, the keys to victory, I thought you're spot on with the big bats need to wake up. That's what I have written down here on my paper. It's not just that the bats need to wake up, but your big money guys, your big bats need to wake the hell up. You look at Schwartz, Bryce, Trey, and Castellanos, who we mentioned in the last game in Game 6, 0 for 12 across the board from those 4 guys. That can't happen. You're not going to win a game in the playoffs, in the NLCS, in a high stress moment without these guys performing at their top level. They go 0 for 12, 6 strikeouts, and 3 walks in Game 6. You look at the Phillies as a whole, 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. You get just a few of those out of that 7, and you win that game in Game 6. Yeah. Nonetheless, it needs to start early tonight. You mentioned Brandon Pfaadt.
1,000%.
Had the great start in Game 3 against the Phillies in Arizona. That makes a big difference in this equation. Because you look at Brandon Pfaadt in his last 5 road starts, 6.75 ERA, and he's given up 8 home runs. What does that sound like? That sounds like dinner for the Philadelphia Phillies tonight.
Dinner and dessert.
Sounds like
dinner and a show.
Up the long ball.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think in this game, it's important, like you said, to get at him early, because I'm not too sure that the Diamondbacks are going to stick with him too long, depending how he plays out in this game. If he gets teed off on early, they're pulling him very early. If it even gets close, I think they're going to pull him very early. Because of
similar to what they did in Game 3, right? He mowed us down, but the fact that it was a 0-0 ball game, they felt comfortable to give it to their bullpen that time.
Exactly. So I think, like you said, got to take advantage of this guy, this young rookie pitcher early. And it starts with the guys up front, man, the big bats. We need Schwarber and Bryce to come through, and Trey, all of the above.
So I do agree with you, but it kind of plays into my next key.
Yeah.
It's very obvious that your big money guys have to show up in big money situations, and there's none bigger than tonight. And Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber have done nothing but that in playoff elimination games in their career. Bryce Harper's hitting .368 with 2 home runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 4 walks, and 5 RBIs in playoff elimination games. Kyle Schwarber is batting .310 with 3 bombs and 4 walks and 6 RBIs in playoff elimination games. They show up. However, I am looking at the rest of the order tonight, man. Yeah. Because I think last night, excuse me again, what Arizona's game plan was to not give either of the 2 power lefties, meaning Bryce and Kyle, anything to beat them, and who's going to step up and make a play. Now, there's obvious guys like a Trey Turner who's gone into a little bit of a shell, right? Need him to wake back up. Nick Castellanos was scorching hot in the NLDS. Definitely need him to wake back up. But I'm looking at Alec Boehm specifically tonight. And I'll throw Bryson Stott in the mix here, man. I don't care that Alec Boehm had 2 dribbler singles to the right side of the infield last night. I really don't. Bryce Harper is not going to get anything to hit tonight. Can Alec Boehm make them pay for that and make them earn the rest of their outs, essentially is what I'm trying to say. And Bryson Stott as well, because to Brett's point, you're giving him a break between Bryce and JT. Now, JT's a whole nother story. JT's another guy that, yes, has had some clutch hits and has played very well this postseason so far from the plate. But he's also had moments like yesterday, right? Now, he comes up in the second inning and hits a leadoff double, and we're all sitting here like, man, if he was batting behind Bryce, he would have made them pay with that double. But then the rest of JT's at-bats were absolutely horrible the rest of the way. Yeah. Swung a ball up at his eyeballs and hit 2 or 3 pop-ups to the second baseman. Yeah. So I don't know that the answer is just move JT to clean up. Yeah. It's definitely not move Costi to clean up right now because he's won for his last 22. Yeah. So Alec Boehm has to make Brandon Pfaadt and this Diamondbacks rotation pay for pitching around Bryce Harper tonight.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on, man. Alec Boehm and Bryson Stott specifically, and I know that like meme that went around of I can't even remember their closer's name, but it was like this meme of him saying that Alec Boehm and Bryson Stott, they're like automatic outs. That it came back that wasn't apparently true that he actually said that, but it happens to be very funny because a lot of the time it plays out like that. And I think to your point, it cannot be an easy out when these guys step to the plate. The pitcher can't look at Alec Boehm once he gets past Bryce Harper and take a deep sigh of relief seeing Alec Boehm in the plate. That can't be the case tonight. And to your point about the 2 singles that, lollygagged into the infield and he somehow got on base.
I could care less about those.
That's not moving anybody's confidence. That's not moving anybody's fear of Alec Boehm at the plate. So he needs to get some contact and he needs to get some power going tonight and back these guys up. And I think Trey Turner falls into that place as well. The way he was swinging at the ball last night.
I mean, dude, that second inning at bat
was horrific.
A wreck, man. Or third inning at bat, whenever that was.
It blows your mind at times. And all I can attribute it to is that these guys are coming out flat and maybe they just expected the game to fall into their lap. Well, newsflash, the Diamondbacks, while they might not be the most talented, they're not going to let anything just fall into your lap. They're going to play good defense out in the field. So if you're not banging them out of the yard, you're not going to get a lot of chances at runs. So you have to take advantage of every single opportunity. I think we've learned over this series that the Diamondbacks, they will play you tough if nothing else. And give them a little bit of credit where it's due, but guys need to show up. You can't have a game where those names go 0 for 12 across the board, man. That just can't happen. The next thing that I'll say, and I'll throw this to you. Sure. Obviously, Nola, he didn't necessarily show up big in that moment. Didn't necessarily, shit the bed, quote unquote, as much as I feel like people
second inning,
shaping that. He kind of got it back together after that second inning, and we go from there. Yeah. As you mentioned earlier, it didn't matter because the bats were non-existent anyways. Ranger has to show up tonight. Yep. Ranger will show up. Ranger will be calm, cool, and collected. And that type of presence is going to resonate with the rest of this team, I'm hoping. I'm hoping Bryce, I'm hoping Schwarber. All of these guys can feed off of Ranger's calmness at the mound tonight. And I'm hoping Ranger can show us something tonight. I'll also say this as far as that key. Obviously, Ranger needs to be good. Topper needs to trust Ranger as well.
There it is.
I'll throw that to you. Go ahead.
No, it's a perfect point, and it's my final key as well. Rob Thompson has to find a way to trust his third starter right now because as great as Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola had been, obviously up until that last Nola start, Ranger Suarez was right there along with them in postseason play. He was great last year in postseason play. Yeah. Topper constantly praises his cool, calm demeanor, right? His steady heartbeat, right? You have to trust that tonight. Go back to game 4. Now, I know it's Christopher Sanchez, but he did the same thing game 1 with Ranger Suarez. What I'm expecting tonight is a semi-bullpen game from the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
I'm expecting no more than like 4 2/3 from Brandon Pfaadt tonight if the bats show up the way they're supposed to. So it's almost a long night for that bullpen. You cannot even the playing field by not trusting Ranger Suarez and giving him an early hook. I am not trusting the rest of that bullpen in a game 7 with how shaky they have looked the last couple of outings to close this one out. Now, I get
Can't
it.
even throw strikes right now.
It's all hands on deck. Zach Wheeler's available. Maybe he can throw 2 innings tonight. I don't know what Topper's plan is out of the bullpen, but I promise you, if this is a 4-inning start from Ranger Suarez, whether he's dominant or gives up 2 runs, maybe has a base runner on second, and he's like, oh, you have to trust him, man, because it's worked out for you to trust Aaron Nola this postseason. Topper looked smart for it, but what the hell did Aaron Nola do all year long for you to have that trust in him?
Yeah.
To
versus
have that
him
leash.
Versus Ranger.
Whereas Ranger Suarez has continued to instill confidence in you that he can give you 6, 7 innings at times. I don't need 7, but I think Ranger should be able to give you 5 1/3 to 6 innings clean tonight. I really do. So he has to trust Ranger Suarez tonight. The last thing I'll say, man, before we get into standout stars and predictions and all of that, this team has to trust themselves.
Yeah.
And I know your backs are against the wall and you're the favorites. And we, tomorrow morning on the show could be either a disastrous show or a celebration, right?
Yeah.
But this team played extremely tight last night. And I never expected to see that coming up in an elimination game at that ballpark against a lesser talented team. You're the better team. You're the better team by a lot. I know the 3-3 record doesn't show it right now. You are by far the more talented and dangerous team. Go out there and play like it tonight. I'm going to say this one more time, and I'm trying not to say this with disrespect, but it is Brandon effing Pfaadt, man. I gave him the credit for game 1.
Yeah.
Make me take that away.
Yeah. Man,
because
just imagine looking back on this moment and allowing the Phillies allowing themselves to lose to Brandon Pfaadt in the NLCS in a game 7.
Game 7 at home.
Backs on the wall at home with Ranger Suarez at the
conversation
mound.
Around
you cannot lose this game.
Conversation around this team will shift so drastically in about a 3-night span if this team does not find a way to come out on top tonight.
Yeah.
You have every advantage in tonight's game. Go back to last night. They used their 3 or 4 high leverage situation relievers. You didn't. Now, obviously, I'm not just praising that we didn't. We lost the game, but we didn't have to. We're fresher in the bullpen. We have the better starter. We have the better ace that's available out of the bullpen. You're at home in the biggest, home field advantage atmosphere that there is in Major League Sports.
Yeah.
You have the better lineup.
Simple, it's very simple, man.
The job done tonight, man.
Please, Topper, just trust Ranger, man. I'm begging you tonight. I'm begging you to trust him. The dude, 0.64 ERA this postseason, 14 innings pitched, 7 hits given up, 1 run given up, which was a home run, 2 walks, 13 Ks in this postseason, man. Just trust him. Let him ride. And if you can't let him ride, if you have to take him out, then we need to make some great decisions tonight, right? That's why you virtually waved your white flag with the decisions you made in the bullpen last night. That means we have to make all the right decisions tonight if you want to wave that white flag in game 6.
I will say
and I think the last thing go ahead. If you're going to talk about I'll throw this in after.
I was just going to say, we're sitting here kind of game planning for how you're going to tightrope or kind of walk this line of how you're handling the bullpen and Rangers leash and everything like that. Yeah. I am expecting an offensive output where maybe it's not the Rangers Astros game last night where we're just sleepwalking through 7 innings, but 5
know what you mean,
5-1 in the fourth
Yeah.
inning, where you have a little bit of
Comfortable.
leeway with what you can decide to do and feel a little bit more comfortable on the mound.
Yeah. I agree. The bats have to answer the call tonight.
Yep.
Ranger Suarez, whatever happens, but the bats have to answer the call. And I will say, the fans out there, obviously, they're probably already out there. They've already been tailgating, whatever the case may be. I know we're not talking to them right now, but none of that leaving earlier. No knockout punches tonight. Like if the Diamondbacks somehow come out in the second inning tonight and crank 2 more home runs, that doesn't mean you stop waving the towels, you stop clapping, you stop standing up cheering for this team. Yeah, I did not like the overall vibe last night of the crowd, of the team, all around.
And listen, I know
gotta be better.
And listen, I know how it feels because at home, when your team does that, you kind of you sit back, right? You're not as much on the edge of your seat.
It's tough.
But the problem is, we are the best fans in the world. We do have the biggest home field advantage in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
A 2-run deficit early cannot deflate this ballpark the way that it did last night. And that's not to let the players off the hook. They did nothing inspiring to lift that ballpark up.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to lie to you, by the 7th or 8th inning, it was cooked. It was over. But in the 4th inning of a 3-1 ball game, now you gotta keep it going, man.
Exactly.
And I hope that this crowd is as crazy as they have ever been at Citizens Bank Park. The first ever Game 7 in this organization's history. Man, this isn't Game 5 of the NLDS. This isn't Game 3 of a wild card. This is to punch your ticket back to the World Series. And we get another week to talk about the Philadelphia Phillies fighting for a World Series championship for consecutive seasons. That's all I am asking for, man. Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to have a loser's mentality or a weak mentality next series against the Rangers. But if you were to lose a tight series in the World Series to the Texas Rangers, we're not going to sit here and call it a freaking disappointment season, right?
We're not going to have regrets.
You lose to this team in this fashion. The way the series has played out, gone up 2-0, let them tie it. The way the bats have gone out, come back home up 3-2. You lose this series, and the conversations surrounding this team are not going to be pretty this offseason because this would be considered a gigantic disappointment to the season.
Failure. Yeah, I agree, man. You look back, and I know if we end up losing this game tonight, Games 3 and 4, man. I mean, I know they're in Arizona.
Yeah,
those are your chances. You had so many opportunities in those games. That's why I didn't want to flash back too much to those games. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter tonight. You got one game to win.
And I got one. Let me say one thing. One thing to this camera right now.
Yeah,
Nick Castellanos. Whatever. I said how this is my favorite team in Philadelphia sports history. Well, you guys thrive when you get punched in the mouth, right? That's what you told us. And that's what you had shown us all year long. And up until this point in the postseason, you've now been punched 3 times. You hit the canvas last night. Are you going to answer the call tonight and bounce back? And are we going to celebrate on Broad Street? That's my question, man.
Yeah.
Because there is no more thriving when you get punched in the mouth if you lose 4 of 5 straight games to the Arizona Diamondbacks in the Championship League Series. Okay? So with that said, Scotty, looking at this lineup, obviously Rob Thompson has not tinkered it. It is the same going forward. Alec Bohm in the cleanup spot. Bryson Stott, followed by JT, Costi, Marsh, Rojas. Give me your standout star who steps up tonight in the order and gets the Phillies closer to a victory.
It's got to be Bryce Harper, man. It's got to be Bryce Harper. There's a bunch of other guys on this team that, of course, you can beg, we can plead that they got to answer the call, but it's got to be Bryce Harper. He's got to be the guy that walks through that door and saves this team and leads them on their way home, right? I think any type of situation, high stakes tonight, Bryce has got to be big money. You got people on base. You get Kyle Schwarber walked, and Trey can get on base. You got 2 people. Any types of those situations where you can get multi-runners home, Bryce Harper has to be that guy that brings them home tonight. And it starts with him. I think you just have to start from the top with your leadership, whether that's Schwarbs, whether that's Harper. It's one of those guys has to show up tonight. And I think he will, man. Since he's gotten here, he has shown up in these moments ready to go, and he always fulfills the call. It's one of those things that we've been talking about this whole postseason, how when things seem bleak or when things almost feel too perfect for Bryce to come through, he still comes through no matter what. And tonight we need MV3 to show up and come through big time for the Phillies, man.
Yeah, they do, man. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but my standout star is Alec Bohm. There are no stats to support my explanation. This is not kind of a vibe thing. There's not anything to take away from Game 6 that I could take moving forward. All I know is that the single most important batter in that lineup tonight is hitting in the 4 spot behind Bryce Harper. And if the Arizona Diamondbacks continue to do what they did last night and not give Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber anything to really do damage with, and walk Bryce Harper, etc. Maybe there's 2 outs with Harper up with a runner on second and they intentionally walk him. And now here comes Bohm with runners in scoring position. That is the single most important bat in the lineup tonight. You have to make them pay one time to change their minds early in this ball game. One time with a rip down to the third baseline. One time with a gap shot. And you change their outlook on this lineup because they can't do that. He is so far up here right now, man. He needs something early in this ball game. One swing to change his mentality at the plate tonight. And if he does that, the rest of this lineup will wake up. It has to be so deflating to see your 2 guys up at top get, early on in the game, first and third, 1 out, first and third, 2 outs. Here comes Alec Bohm. 4-pitch strikeout. He goes down looking.
Or a double
there
play.
Goes Alec Bohm, grounds into an inning-ending double play.
Yeah.
That has to be put to bed tonight. Alec Bohm is the most important hitter in this lineup tonight. Has to get the job done. And I hope they will. Let's go.
Yeah.
With that said, Scotty, will the Phillies be punching their ticket back to the World Series tonight?
Fuck yes. They will be punching their ticket back to the World Series tonight because there is no other way that this could play out, man. We picked them in 5. Then we thought it would be done in 6 at home. We thought coming back home would get it done. But the shout out to the Diamondbacks. They have pushed this team to the furthest extent that they could push it in this series. They've taken advantage of every opportunity that the Phillies have left out there on the field for them. And to them, kudos to that. But they are not good enough to beat this Phillies team in 7 games. In a 7-game series where everything is at the Phillies' advantage. You are at home. You have Ranger Suarez on the mound. You have everything at your advantage here. Your lineup, outside of Trey Turner, who, by the way, has been in a World Series, so he has experience too. The entire lineup has experience outside of Rojas. There is no excuses for these bats to not come out alive tonight and make this game fun for Phillies fans. And to that point, I am going to take the Phillies to win, and I think it's going to be a fun Game 7 for us. I think we get started early. I think the bats come out awake. I think Ranger is Ranger, and I think the Phillies win tonight 8-3. I'm going with my same score from Game 6 because it's what should have happened last night is going to happen tonight. And the Phillies are going to take care of business, my man.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm not going to give a score prediction. All I'm going to say is around, I don't know, 11-10, 11-15 tonight around Citizens Bank Park. All you're going to hear is play the song, baby. I don't know if you guys can hear it tonight right here, but it's in the microphone if you can't hear it. There it is. No?
Yeah, I can hear it.
There you go. I'm just going to keep it playing. Guys, with that said, that is going to wrap up this edition of DSM Pregame Live. Phillies, Diamondbacks, NLCS, Game 7 about to be underway. Not sure my nerves can handle this. A lot more of these coming my way. And Scotty, my man, I will be texting you throughout the game. But guys, let's go enjoy
grab my tequila.
Have a great rest of your night and go Fightins.
Peace, y'all. Go fight.